Okay, so moving on to case number 6. This is a patient who presented for the first time with shortness of breath, and we don't have results of pulmonary function testing. And this is the routine chest X-ray that we did for this patient. As you can see, if you want to report this, there is a lot of possible findings that we can make. Let's say if I want to report this, you can see there is like patchy opacities here, and at some areas are even, let's say, tubular shape. It could be atelectasis, could be pneumonia, and then looking at other areas, you see some possible centrally loosened areas. And if you want to have a differential for them, we could say they are, dilated bronchi, or let's say centrally loosened lesions here, here, and then increased bronchovascular markings and maybe some reticulation. So basically, a lot of findings that we can make based on this chest X-ray, but there's a lot of possible findings that we don't have definite answer for them. Well, for this patient, we also did dynamic imaging, and the next one. As you can see here, now, let's say, look at this tubular structure here. You can follow it towards the hilum, and you can say, well, these are like dilated bronchi. And basically, dilated bronchi, and then all those loosened areas that we saw here, they're basically enforced bronchi, and then we actually come up to diagnosis of bronchiectasis for this patient. We have increased reticulation, so which was basically not definitive on static X-ray imaging, but here we have, with more information, we can more definitively say, well, this patient has bronchiectasis. And looking at these areas, one of the things that when we see these patchy opacities, there's usual differential diagnosis for them. It could be aspiration, could be atelectasis, could be pneumonia. Well, the thing is, if it is atelectasis with lying movement, with inspiration, the atelectasis would go away. But here, what you see is that these opacities, they don't go away. They basically move with the lying parenchyma. So that raises the possibility. You can more definitively say this is parenchymal disease, this is pneumonia, or some parenchymal process going on. This is not atelectasis. The other thing is we can follow these tubular structures here. You see the prebronchial coughing. So you look at this, like, let's say, this tubular structure, and goes all the way to the hilum. You can say, well, these are all dilated bronchi here. And then even this tubular shape opacity here, you can actually more definitively say this is probably like an impacted bronchi as opposed to, let's say, atelectasis. So we have, for confirmation, we got a CT for this patient, which is the next slide. As you can see, you see like dilated bronchi, and then this is the, the signet ring sign, and bronchiectasis here, impacted bronchi here and here. So we could actually get a lot of these findings from that dynamic X-ray. If you go back to dynamic, we also could potentially get the diagnosis of COPD here. You can see, increased work of breathing here, and the patient has to actually force-free move the diaphragm for breathing. And then you see the pattern of obstruction and hyperinflation of the lungs, and the lungs are basically in expiration, are not deflating well. So you actually get a sense of COPD. So several diagnoses you make with this dynamic X-ray that you could not make with a static X-ray. Was the opacities here, impacted bronchi, COPD, and all these findings that you could more definitively diagnose with basically the added value of dynamic imaging as opposed to static imaging.